I held my best friend Eddie while he died. It took 3 hours. He screamed for his mother. He begged me to kill him and end the pain. I couldn't do it. Just held him and lied that it would be okay. When I wrote to his parents, I told him he died instantly, heroically, no pain. For 80 years, his family believed that story. Then, last month, Eddie's grandson contacted me. He's writing a family history. He wants to know the real story of how his grandfather died. And I have to decide whether to keep lying or destroy everything they believe about the man they loved. My name is Frank. I'm 98 years old. I've told you the hard truths about war, about killing a 14-year-old boy, about watching Americans commit war crimes, about refusing orders to execute prisoners. But this one is different. This one is personal. Because Eddie wasn't just another soldier. He was my best friend since we were 8 years old. We grew up on the same street, played baseball together, went to the same school, enlisted together, and I watched him die in the worst way possible. Then I lied about it, and that lie became the foundation of how his entire family remembers him. Eddie Chen, that was his name. His parents had immigrated from China in the 1920s, ran a laundry in our neighborhood. Eddie was born in America, spoke perfect English, but also learned Chinese from his parents. He was smart, really smart, top of our class. Could have gone to college if his family had the money. Instead, he worked in the laundry after school, helped his parents, took care of his 3 younger sisters. He was a good guy, the kind of person who made everyone around him better. We were inseparable growing up, did everything together. When Pearl Harbor happened in December 1941, we were both 18. Eddie wanted to enlist immediately. His parents were terrified. They'd already faced discrimination for being Chinese, were worried about what would happen to Eddie in the military. But Eddie insisted, said he needed to prove he was American, that this was his country too. I enlisted with him, told my parents we'd watch out for each other, that we'd come home together. We went through basic training together, shipped overseas together, ended up in the same unit, same squad. It was rare. Usually they split people up. But somehow we stayed together. Through Normandy, through France, through Belgium. We watched each other's backs, shared rations when supplies were low, covered for each other when one of us was sick or exhausted. In a war that separated everyone from everything they knew, I had Eddie, and he had me. We told ourselves we'd make it home together, get jobs, maybe start families, grow old telling stories about the war. That all ended on March 23, 1945. We were in Germany, pushing toward the Rhine. The war was almost over. Everyone could feel it. The German army was collapsing. We'd started talking about what we'd do when we got home. Eddie wanted to use the GI Bill to go to college, study engineering. His parents were getting old, and he wanted to take care of them. Maybe bring his sisters to wherever he ended up. Build a good life. He had it all planned out. 2 more months, we thought, maybe 3, and we'd be done. We'd survived. We'd made it. We were clearing a town, small place. Most of the buildings already damaged from artillery. No major resistance expected, just a sweep to make sure no German soldiers were hiding out. Eddie and I were paired up like usual, moving through buildings, checking rooms. Standard procedure. We'd done it 100 times. We entered this house, 2 stories,
Front door blown off. We moved through the ground floor. Empty. Started up the stairs to check the second floor. That's when we heard it. A voice. German. Shouting from upstairs. We froze. Weapons ready. The voice kept shouting. We couldn't understand the words, but we recognized the tone. Fear. Panic. Not aggressive. Eddie looked at me. We made the decision silently. Move forward. Clear the second floor. We went up the stairs slowly, carefully. The voice was coming from a room at the end of the hall. We approached. Eddie went in first. I was right behind him.
The room was a bedroom, or had been. Furniture overturned, windows shattered, and in the corner, a German soldier. Young guy, couldn't have been more than 17. He wasn't armed. His rifle was on the floor across the room. He was holding his hands up, surrendering, and he was crying. Just a kid, terrified. Probably his first combat. Probably got separated from his unit and hid in this house, hoping to wait out the fighting. Eddie lowered his weapon, started to say something, was going to secure the prisoner. That's when I saw the grenade on the floor next to the German soldier, pin already pulled. The kid saw where I was looking. His eyes went wide. He wasn't surrendering. He was going to blow us all up. A suicide attack. Take out as many Americans as he could before he died. Eddie saw it too. Same moment I did. We both dove backward. The German grabbed the grenade. There was maybe 2 seconds before it would explode. Eddie pushed me, hard, shoved me back through the doorway into the hall. I hit the floor, heard the explosion, the concussion wave, the sound of the building shaking, then smoke and dust everywhere. I couldn't see, couldn't hear. My ears were ringing. I called out for Eddie. No answer. I crawled forward through the smoke, into the room, and I found him. The grenade had gone off close to Eddie. The German soldier was dead, instantly. Eddie was alive, but he shouldn't have been. The shrapnel had torn through his stomach and chest. There was blood everywhere, so much blood. I could see parts of his body that should never be visible. Internal organs, bone, things no field medic could fix, things no hospital could fix. He was dying. We both knew it immediately. I screamed for a medic, started trying to stop the bleeding, but there was too much, too many wounds. My hands were covered in his blood within seconds. Eddie was conscious, looking at me. He tried to say something, but couldn't get the words out. I told him he'd be okay, that help was coming, that we'd get him out of there. All lies. We both knew they were lies, but I said 'em anyway because what else do you say to your best friend when he's dying in front of you? The medic arrived, took one look, and I saw it in his face. Nothing he could do. He gave Eddie morphine, a lot of it, enough to dull the pain a little, but not enough to stop it. Not with wounds like that. The medic looked at me and shook his head, and then he left. Had to help people he could actually save, and I was alone with Eddie. He was trying to talk. I leaned close,
could barely hear him over the ringing in my ears and the sounds of ongoing fighting outside. He said, "It hurts, Frank. It hurts so bad." His voice was weak, trembling. I told him I knew, told him the morphine would help. Another lie. He was in agony. You could see it in his face. Every breath was torture. I held his hand, told him to think about home, about his parents, his sisters, about going to college, about the life he was going to have, trying to give him something to focus on besides the pain. But he just kept saying it hurt, kept asking me to make it stop. At first I thought he meant the pain, but then I realized what he was actually asking. "Frank, please," he said. "Please, I can't do this. Please." He was asking me to kill him, to end it, to put him out of his misery like you'd do for a wounded animal. I had my pistol. Would have been easy. One shot. No more pain, no more suffering, just quick and done. I looked at him, at my best friend since we were 8 years old, at the guy who'd saved my life by pushing me out of that room, at the person I'd promised to bring home. And I couldn't do it. I can't, Eddie. I can't do that. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. He started crying, not just from pain, but from desperation, from knowing he had to endure this, that there was no escape, no shortcut. He had to suffer through every minute until his body finally gave up, and I was making him do that because I was too weak to help him.
For 3 hours, I held Eddie while he died. 3 hours of him screaming, begging, crying, calling for his mother in both English and Chinese, praying to gods he didn't believe in, bargaining, pleading, cursing me for not ending it, then apologizing for cursing me, then begging again. 3 hours of watching my best friend suffering ways I can't even fully describe, ways I still can't think about without wanting to vomit. Other soldiers came and went, checked on us, offered water, more morphine, words of comfort that meant nothing. But nobody stayed, because watching someone die like that is unbearable. And there was still fighting, still a war to fight. So they left me alone with Eddie. And I held him. Then I lied to him, told him it would be over soon, that he was strong, that he was going to be okay. Every lie I could think of to give him even a moment of hope or comfort in the middle of that horror. And somewhere around the 3-hour mark, he stopped screaming, stopped begging. He just looked at me with these hollow eyes and whispered, "Tell my mom I love her. Tell her I'm sorry I didn't come home." Then his breathing changed, became shallow, irregular. The death rattle, they call it. The sound someone makes when they're minutes from the end. And I held his hand tighter, told him I loved him, that he was my brother, that I'd make sure his family knew he was a hero. He died looking at me. One moment he was there, the next moment he was gone. Just like that. After 3 hours of agony, he slipped away in seconds. I sat there holding his hand for a long time afterwards. Couldn't make myself let go.
couldn't accept that he was really gone, that I'd failed to bring him home like I'd promised, that his parents would never see him again, that his sisters would grow up without their brother, that all his plans, all his dreams, all his potential had died in a destroyed bedroom in a nameless German town. Eventually, other soldiers came and took his body. Standard procedure. They'd take him to Graves registration, process him, eventually ship him home for burial. I watched him carry him away. And then I sat down and cried. Not dignified tears, not quiet sadness, just complete breakdown, sobbing so hard I couldn't breathe. Davies found me like that, sat with me, didn't say anything. Just sat there until I could pull myself together enough to function. A week later, I received Eddie's personal effects, the stuff they'd collected from his body. His dog tags, his wallet, a photograph of his family, and a letter he'd been writing to his parents but hadn't finished it. I read it. It was cheerful, optimistic, talking about coming home soon, about using the GI Bill to go to school, about how proud he was to serve, about how much he missed him. The letter ended mid-sentence. He'd never gotten to finish it. I knew I had to write to his parents, to tell them what happened. Standard procedure was the Army would send an official telegram. We regret to inform you. But Eddie's parents deserved more than that. They deserved to hear from someone who knew him, who loved him, who was there when he died. So I sat down to write the hardest letter of my life. I started honestly. Described the mission, the house, the German soldier, the grenade, how Eddie pushed me out of the way and saved my life. All true. But then I got to the part about how he died, and I couldn't write the truth. Couldn't tell them their son screamed in agony for 3 hours, that he begged me to kill him, that he called for his mother while his intestines were hanging out of his body, that he died in the worst way possible. I couldn't do it. Couldn't give them that image to carry for the rest of their lives. So I lied. I wrote that the explosion killed the German soldier instantly and severely wounded Eddie. That I was with him, that he was given morphine immediately and felt no pain, that he was unconscious most of the time, that in his brief moments of consciousness, he talked about home, about how much he loved them, about how proud he was to serve, that he died peacefully within 30 minutes, looking at the photograph of his family, that his last words were, "Tell them I love them, and I'll see them again." None of that was true, but it was what they needed to hear. What any parent would need to hear about their child's death. So I wrote it, sealed it, mailed it, and created a lie that would last 80 years.
I came home in 1946, went to visit Eddie's parents. They were devastated, obviously, but they took comfort in my letter, in knowing he hadn't suffered, that he'd been thinking of them, that his death had been quick and heroic, They thanked me for being with him, for holding him, for bringing them peace about how he died. And I sat in their living room, drinking tea, lying to their faces, confirming the story, adding details that made it easier for them to bear, watching them find comfort in a fantasy I'd created. Eddie's mother said, "I'm so grateful he didn't suffer. That's all I wanted to know, that he didn't suffer." And I nodded, agreed, assured her he didn't, while knowing the truth, that he suffered more than any person should ever have to suffer, that I'd watched every second of it, that I still heard his screams when I closed my eyes at night. Over the years, I stayed in touch with Eddie's family, visited them occasionally, attended his sister's weddings, watched them have children, watched Eddie's nieces and nephews grow up never knowing their uncle. And every time I saw them, I maintained the lie, added to it when asked, painted a picture of Eddie's death that was noble and painless and meaningful, because the alternative was cruelty. What purpose would it serve to tell them the truth, to traumatize them with details they could never unhear, to replace their comforting image with horror? Eddie's parents died believing their son didn't suffer. His sisters grew old believing their brother died heroically and peacefully. His nieces and nephews grew up with stories of Uncle Eddie who saved his friend's life and died instantly in the explosion. The lie became family history, became part of how they remembered him, became inseparable from who Eddie was in their minds. And I carried the truth alone, never told anyone the real story. Not Sarah, my wife, not my children, not Davies, who knew it had been bad but didn't know the details. Just me and the memory of Eddie screaming, Eddie begging, Eddie dying slowly while I held him and lied that it would be okay. For 80 years I carried that truth alone, and I told myself I was protecting them, that the lie was an act of kindness, that some truths are too heavy to share. Then, last month, I got an email from a young man named Michael Chen, Eddie's grandson. His grandmother, Eddie's youngest sister, had recently died. While going through her belongings, Michael found my letters, the one I'd written to Eddie's parents, other letters I'd sent over the years, photos of Eddie and me. Michael said he was working on a family history project, documenting stories for future generations, and he wanted to interview me about his grandfather, about what Eddie was like, about how he died, about what it meant to serve with him. I read that email 5 times. My hands were shaking. This was it, the moment I'd avoided for 80 years. Eddie's family member asking for the real story, not satisfied with the sanitized version, wanting details, wanting truth, wanting to know who his grandfather really was and how he really died. And I had to decide, keep lying, maintain the story I'd created,
protect the comfort of people I'd never met, or tell the truth, give him the real story, and destroy the image of Eddie that 3 generations had built their memories on. I didn't respond for a week, kept staring at the email, writing responses and deleting them, trying to figure out the right thing to do. Is truth always better than a comforting lie? Does honesty always serve a purpose? Or are some truths so painful that mercy requires silence? I didn't know. Still don't know. But I finally wrote back. Said I'd be happy to talk. Set up a video call, and spent the week before that call trying to decide what I was going to say. The call happened 3 days ago. Michael is 28 years old, looks like Eddie, same eyes, same smile. It was like talking to a ghost. He asked me about Eddie's personality, his sense of humor, what we did together growing up, the easy questions. I answered honestly, told him stories, made him laugh, showed him that Eddie was real, was a person, not just a name in a family tree. Then he asked the hard question. Can you tell me about the day he died? My great-grandparents' version was always very simple, but I want to know the real story, what really happened, what it was like. I want to understand who my grandfather was in his final moments.
I sat there looking at this kid who looked so much like Eddie. And I made my choice. I told him the truth, all of it. The grenade, Eddie pushing me to safety, the wounds, the 3 hours, the screaming, the begging, Eddie asking me to kill him, my refusal, every detail I'd hidden for 80 years. I watched Michael's face as I told him, watched him process it, watched the comfortable story he'd believed his whole life get destroyed by reality. When I finished, there was a long silence. Then Michael said, "My whole life, everyone told me my grandfather died a hero, that it was instant, that he didn't suffer, that he died thinking of his family. You're telling me all of that was a lie?" "Yes," I said. "I'm sorry, but yes. I lied to your great-grandparents. I've been lying for 80 years because I thought it was kinder, because I couldn't bear to tell them the truth. But you asked for the real story, and you deserve to know who Eddie really was, not the sanitized version, the real person." "Did he die a hero?" Michael asked. "Yes," I said. "Absolutely yes. He pushed me out of that room, saved my life, sacrificed himself. That's heroic. But heroism doesn't mean you don't suffer. Doesn't mean death is easy or peaceful. Eddie died a hero, and he died in agony. Both things are true." Michael was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Thank you for telling me the truth. I know it must have been hard, and I know my family found comfort in the other story. But I needed to know. I needed to understand that my grandfather was a real person who experienced real things, not just a perfect story." We talked for another hour about grief, about truth, about what we owe the dead. Michael said he wouldn't share the full truth with the older generation. His grandmother had died believing the comfortable story, and he wouldn't take that away from her memory. But he'd include the truth in the family history for future generations, so they'd know what war really costs,
what soldiers really experience, what Eddie really went through. After the call ended, I sat there for a long time. I don't know if I made the right choice. Part of me thinks I should have kept the lie, protected the family from pain they didn't need to carry. Let Eddie remain the perfect hero in their memories. What good does the truth serve except to cause pain? But another part of me thinks Michael was right, that Eddie deserves to be remembered as a real person, that sanitizing his death dishonors what he went through, that the comfortable lie erases the reality of his suffering. And if we erase suffering, we make it easier to send more people to war because war becomes abstract, becomes stories of heroes who die instantly and painlessly, becomes something noble instead of something horrific. Eddie didn't die well. He didn't die peacefully. He didn't die thinking noble thoughts about freedom and country. He died screaming in agony, begging for his mother, asking me to kill him. That's the truth. That's what war cost him. That's what we did to a smart kid who wanted to go to college and take care of his parents and build a good life. We sent him to die in a destroyed building in Germany, and his death was horrible and meaningless. And everything we tell ourselves war isn't. I lied about it for 80 years. Told Eddie's family a story that let them sleep at night, that let them be proud of how he died, that let them believe he didn't suffer. And maybe that was mercy. Maybe that was kindness. Maybe some lies are justified when they protect people from unbearable truths. But I'm 98 years old, and I'm tired of lying. I'm tired of protecting comfortable myths about war. I'm tired of letting people believe that soldiers die heroically and painlessly, when the reality is usually screaming and blood and begging for death. I'm tired of carrying secrets that let society send more kids to war without understanding what it really costs. So I told Michael the truth, and now I'm telling you. Eddie Chen died on March 23, 1945. He saved my life. He was my best friend, and his death was the most horrible thing I've ever witnessed. It took 3 hours. He was in agony. He begged me to kill him, and I refused. And then I lied to his family about it all, because I thought I was being kind. Was I? Was lying to them for 80 years an act of kindness? Or was it cowardice? Was I protecting them? Or was I protecting myself from having to speak the unspeakable? I don't know. I've thought about it every day for 80 years, and I still don't know. But I do know this. Eddie deserves to be remembered for who he really was and what he really experienced. Not a sanitized story, not a comfortable myth. The truth. Even if the truth is painful, even if it makes war look like what it really is. Especially if it makes war look like what it really is. I'm sorry, Eddie. I'm sorry I couldn't end your suffering when you begged me to. I'm sorry I lied about how you died. I'm sorry I carried that lie for so long. And I'm sorry that telling the truth now, 80 years later, probably won't change anything. Won't stop the next war. Won't save the next Eddie from dying the same way. But I had to say it. Had to stop protecting the lie. Had to let people know what we really do to the young men we send to fight. You deserved better. You deserved the life you'd planned. You deserved to go to college and take care of your parents and meet someone and have kids and grow old. You deserve not to die screaming in a destroyed building in a country you'd never wanted to visit. And if I can't give you that,
The least I can do is tell the truth about what was taken from you. Subscribe if you think truth matters, even when it hurts.